What if the moment you entered the world was already a loss? Not a tragedy in the dramatic sense, not something violent or cruel, just a quiet mistake that no one ever acknowledges. There was a philosopher who spent most of his life circling that thought, returning to it again and again like a bruise you can't stop pressing. His name was Emil Cioran, and he believed that existence itself is the problem. Not society, not trauma, not bad luck. Existence. Cioran didn't think life was difficult. He thought being conscious at all was the catastrophe. To exist without awareness would be harmless. A stone exists and suffers nothing. A tree grows and decays without asking why. Even animals, for all their pain, live inside the moment that contains them. But humans are different. Humans know they exist. And once you know that, there's no going back. Cioran was born in 1911 in a small Romanian village, the son of an Orthodox priest. It's almost comical in hindsight. Surrounded by faith from birth, he spent his life tearing away every spiritual comfort offered to him. God, meaning, purpose, salvation, all of it felt dishonest to him. He wanted nothing that softened the blow of being alive, only clarity. As a young man, he burned intensely. He barely slept. Insomnia wasn't a phase for him, it was a permanent condition. Nights stretched endlessly, and in those hours he began to feel time itself as an enemy. When you don't sleep, you don't reset. Thoughts pile up, regrets don't fade, the future presses closer. Cioran once said that insomnia is a form of metaphysical lucidity. When the world sleeps, you're left alone with existence, naked and unbearable. In his 20s, he left Romania for Paris, and something radical happened. He abandoned his native language, not because he disliked it, but because it was too beautiful. Romanian was lyrical, musical, forgiving. He wanted none of that. He chose French because it was colder, sharper, more surgical. He wanted his sentences to cut, not sing. He wanted to strip despair of poetry and leave it exposed. For decades, he lived in a tiny room in Paris. He refused academic positions. He declined prizes. He avoided institutions. He lived on very little, walked the city endlessly, and wrote almost every day. He wasn't building systems or arguments. He wrote fragments, aphorisms, short bursts of thought that felt like pressure escaping a sealed container. He didn't trust philosophies that claimed to explain existence. To him, the fact that we exist at all was already absurd. Why pretend it makes sense? And yet, here's where the paradox begins. Everyone who knew Cioran described him as charming, funny, warm. He loved conversation. He loved cafes. He laughed easily. One friend called him the happiest pessimist he'd ever met. Imagine that. A man who wrote that birth is a mistake, that consciousness is a curse, that non-existence would have been preferable, sitting at a table in Paris making people laugh. Cioran believed the real crime happens at birth. Before you are born, you don't suffer, you don't desire, you don't fear. There is no absence because there is no one to feel deprived. Then, without consent, you're dragged into existence. You're given a body that will decay and a mind that will never leave you alone. You're thrown into time. Past, present, future, all at once. This is what he meant by the fall into time. Animals live now. Humans live everywhere, except now. The past becomes a warehouse of regret. Every mistake, every missed possibility, every version of yourself you didn't become, preserved and replayed endlessly. The future becomes a factory of anxiety. Everything that could go wrong, everything that will eventually end, especially you. And the present is just the thin edge where you lose both. You can't hold it. You can't stay there. You try to enjoy something simple, a meal, a walk, a sunset, and your mind ruins it. You think about how it will end, how you should appreciate it more, how you won't even know when the last time happens. You're always watching yourself live instead of living. Consciousness creates distance between you and experience. That distance is where suffering grows. Cioran thought this awareness was an evolutionary mistake. Nature didn't intend to create a being that knows it will die, but it did. And now we're stuck with that knowledge. Every joy carries its own expiration date. Every relationship contains loss from the beginning. Even happiness feels suspicious, fragile, temporary. He took this logic further than most people are comfortable with. He believed having children was morally wrong. Not because parents are malicious, but because no one ever consents to being born. To create a conscious being is to guarantee suffering, anxiety, and death. A person who is never born misses nothing. A person who is born inherits everything. And yet, despite all of this, Cioran never killed himself. Suicide appears constantly in his writing, but always as an idea, not an act. He once wrote that without the idea of suicide, he would have killed himself long ago. The possibility of exit made existence tolerable, like being trapped in a burning building, but knowing there's a door marked exit. You don't need to use it, just knowing it's there is enough to breathe. But even that door was complicated. For Cioran, suicide was still an action within existence, still participation. Your mind might conclude that non-existence is preferable, but your body doesn't care about philosophy. Your nervous system, your survival instincts, millions of years of biology, they all resist. The body keeps living even when the mind has given up on meaning. So he lived, not because life was good, not because it made sense, but because existence is contradictory. You can recognize its absurdity and still drink coffee. You can believe consciousness is a curse and still enjoy conversation. You can deny meaning and still write. In his final years, Cioran developed Alzheimer's disease. The mind he had spent a lifetime criticizing slowly dissolved. Friends noticed something strange. He seemed calmer. The relentless self-awareness was fading. The curse was loosening its grip. Why does any of this matter now? Because we live in an age of extreme consciousness. We don't just exist, we document, analyze, compare, perform. We watch ourselves live through screens. We turn experience into content. We amplify the very self-awareness that Cioran believed was the source of suffering. And yet, maybe his life contained something quietly reassuring. He never solved the problem of existence. He never reconciled his ideas with his behavior. He simply lived inside the contradiction. He endured himself. He turned the weight of being conscious into words. He made existence bearable, not meaningful. Maybe that's all any of us can do. Admit that being alive is strange, that we never asked for this, that consciousness is heavy and time is cruel. And then find small things anyway. Conversation, coffee, walking through a city at night. Words that give shape to the chaos, even if they don't fix it. Not because life is justified, but because we're already here.